On this episode of the Studio Sherpas podcast, we talk about how I convince someone to work with me who's been working with me for almost 10 years and how you can do it too. We also talk about what a creative director at a small studio like ours is and what that job actually means. And we talk about the one thing that we did in our video business that has helped us book better clients, charge more money, and make better videos. All of that on today's episode, so stick around. You're not going to want to miss us. What's up, friend? Hey, welcome to this podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Coral. I'm glad you're here. Super, super glad. I wanted you to know that I'm recording this right before my birthday, and you're hearing it right after my birthday. So I just want to thank you in advance for all of the nice birthday wishes and the gobs of B&H gift cards and Amazon gift cards that you sent me. You are the best. Thank you, thank you, thank you. To celebrate, oh yeah, this is the birthday that keeps on giving. I'm giving away some Studio Sherpas t-shirts. So you're wondering, how can I get one of these Studio Sherpas t-shirts? Well, I'm going to tell you. Here is how you can win one. If you submit a review of this show to the Apple Podcast app at studiosherpas.com/iTunes. That will take you there. And then email us to let us know that you've left a review. Shoot your email to hey@studiosherpas.com. And then in the subject of that email, write the word review. Then, and only then, will you get a chance to win a sweet t-shirt, the soft kind that you can take naps in, not the kind like the giveaway kind at the conferences and stuff that you've been to when you put it on and then you like have to walk around, you're all stiff because the thing is, and it's like 3 sizes too big. This is like custom size, super soft, super cozy. This is the kind of t-shirt that you want. And it says like onward Studio Sherpas, because like that's what, just that's it. That's the jam. So today's review comes from Frank Farrell from Custom Video Pro. Get ready. This is, if you need a sample of what you could write on like in your review, this is one to follow here. So Frank says, from cloudy to clarity, OMG. Ryan is a real studio owner with years of knowledge on how to grow your video production business. He takes the mystery and frustration out into the open and explains his experiences in this business. Even after over 40 years in this industry, I would have paid for this podcast. I would think to myself, am I the only one that runs into the frustration of running a video production company? This guy has some amazing guests that solve the mystery. Thank you, Ryan, for being a true Sherpa. Respectfully, Frank Farrell, Custom Video Production. Is that amazing or what? Yes, please. And thank you so much, Frank. Really, really kind words. Yes, I'm almost speechless, but that's kind of hard to do. But thank you for taking that time, Frank. Really, really thoughtful, and you are too kind. I super appreciate it. Okay. The moment that you've all been waiting for. He is my longest-standing employee and definitely one of my favorites. Creative, that's one of my dad jokes. Creative director at Tell Studios. Let's jump into my interview with John Azoni. Glad you're here.
Thanks, man.
Hey, guys. Welcome to another edition of the Studio Sherpas podcast here in the studio. So we're not in the podcast studio. This is actually the production studio here at Tell Studios. And with me, the man of the hour, John Azoni, the creative director at Tell Studios. And for those of you, if this is the first time you're listening to the show and you're like, who is Tell Studios? I'm here to listen to Studio Sherpas and Ryan because I just heard this was a great show and whatever, or you accidentally found it. Tell Studios is the video production business that I started a long time ago. Actually, you were here before Tell Studios was here.
I was here. I was here when it was Epic Motion.
Were you here when it was Epic Creative Group? Epic Videography?
No.
Epic Weddings?
It was Epic Motion when I started.
That was a while ago. So tell us what, I actually took questions from our Facebook group and I just said like, hey, what things would you be curious to hear from John? And one of them said, Kenny, was a great question. He says, what exactly is a creative director? So now here's the thing. Kenny goes on to say, only because it's an abstract term, I've searched 100 times and come up with 100 different answers, and a seen this role has different responsibilities depending on the company.
I want to hire my wife to come on as creative director for us, but I even struggle to define the exact role, which I would say is pretty hilarious because on paper, the creative role I think is pretty sort of somewhat defined, but your actual day-to-day and your role here at the company is a lot more than...
Yeah, I do a lot of stuff. So creative director at our company means a lot of things. It means making most of the creative decisions. It means doing some sales, some client management stuff, taking out the trash, cleaning out the van sometimes, managing gear, stuff like that. But no, in a larger sense, like I look at myself as a creative director over being like a director. Like if I were to, I always say, if I say I'm a director, I always do this. Like
people are like,
I'm a director, because like director is more of a specific role on set or in a project. For me, I think I'm kind of larger picture than that. So really, like the whole sort of movement of all creative things here usually goes through me, and I do direct most of the projects, and I do a lot of the client management and a lot of like kind of coming alongside of our clients and coaching them on good creative decisions and bad ones and things like that. But really, it's just like all things creative I direct. And I sit with our editors. I'll sit with Grant and Andrew and just make sure stuff that's going to the client is of quality and stuff like that. And so, I mean, nothing really gets out the door without going through me. That's what we mean by directing.
Yeah,
creative directing.
I mean, it's such an obtuse word. I think that's the right word. It's like producer. Like, what is a producer? It's like, holy cow, like a little bit of everything.
Yeah. I mean, so I bill myself as a creative generalist. So I do a little bit of copywriting. I do some script writing. I poke around in Photoshop, and when we need this or that other little thing designed that I can do real quick. We do have a designer because I'm not a designer, but I at least kind of know like what fonts I like and what fonts I don't like. I'm very particular about fonts, very critical of bad fonts. So that's another thing in my. It might not be a skill set that I have because I don't think I'm like the best font person, but I do hate certain fonts.
Maybe that's why we like each other.
Yeah.
But I would say like there's. Do you think I'm more picky about fonts than you, or do you think you are?
I think you used to be.
Yeah.
Now I think I've gotten more
more annoying.
But I hate the fonts that like there's two fonts that everyone hates: Comic Sans and Papyrus. That's the cliche fonts to hate. But like I hate Wisdom Script. I hate Impact. The meme font, Impact. Yeah. Oh, what's some other ones? Well, off the top of my head, those are two that I see all the time, and it drives me nuts when people use either of those fonts in their logos.
We're gonna have to move on. John's getting a little worked up right now. So you started here. Give us your origin story. How long ago? And
I started here over 9 years ago. Hard to believe. So I was working at a nonprofit doing homeless outreach. I actually, going back a little further, I graduated from art school. I studied painting. Thought I was going to be like a gallery artist, type thing, and didn't really go that route. So just sort of stumbled into this job in homeless outreach through some ministry efforts that my buddy and I were doing. And then fast forward, that just wasn't for me. I was more into the creative stuff.
I think his former boss told him it wasn't for him.
Yeah. I was trying so hard to like I would get really into the storytelling and the blogging and making videos for the, for the general marketing team and things like that. And eventually my boss just said, why don't you just go make videos? Because you're not really good at what we actually need you to do. So yes, that is traditionally known as being fired.
You're like, yeah, I just realized that, you know.
Oh, forced resignation. So I spent, I think, 4 or 5 months unemployed, and I was checking Twitter one day, and Ryan, I had known Ryan from, we were friends before all that, and then he was looking for an editor, so I was just like, I've edited some of these little nonprofit videos and like a birthday video for my buddy and and stuff, and I was like, I'm not gonna get the job by like showing him my work. I'm just gonna explain about editing. So I think I said some lofty thing about rising and falling and music or something very abstract. And so anyway, Ryan was like, you start on Monday. So that's how I started, and I didn't really know anything about Final Cut back then. It was like Final Cut 6 that we were on. But just learned, and eventually learned how to shoot and learned how to do a bunch of other stuff. And so I kind of just like a snowball. I just sort of keep collecting tasks and have to figure out how to do them creatively well. And sometimes I succeed at that, sometimes I don't, but I picked up a lot of versatility along the way.
Yeah, it's amazing. Even like before we started doing this, I was just thinking about the journey that you've had, like where you started as this humble editor who you didn't even know how to use Final Cut?
It was Final Cut, yeah.
He's a Premiere Pro.
Premiere
Pro.
I'm a Premiere Pro.
But us having to learn or teach you these tools. We went to the same church. We played in separate worship bands, competing worship bands.
Mine was the better one. Coral would always stand up there and like cry.
Oh my god!
And like tell stories.
Because I couldn't sing good enough, so I was like, I'll just tell some.
Tracy would be in the back going, "Wrap it up." I remember that one time.
I don't think I saw her. There was too many tears in my eyes or something. So anyway, I knew, like what I had learned early on when I started hiring people was that the people that I knew that were artists, whether or not they knew how to shoot or edit, I realized, like, if they're musicians, in John's case, he was a painter and a musician, so I just knew that he would be able to connect to the work that we wanted to be able to do in a way that was different than, like, say an engineer would. And it's been awesome to I feel like I accidentally stumbled upon that, like, epiphany. Not you.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say like a gold mine or something like that.
No, but realizing, like, oh my gosh, and then fast forward 9 years to see all of the projects that you've had your hand in, and to see you have grown from this right at the beginning. I was like, man, you're a pretty good editor. But then we've taken on huge projects together, and it's just awesome for me to think about, like, how much you've grown and the different responsibilities, the different opportunities that you have done so many different things.
Totally. Yeah, and I think that going back to what is a creative director, that's like, because I think about that a lot. Like, what am I?
Yeah.
Because it's just really hard to explain. To someone that's looking for a traditional role, like, but I started in life with music, picked up painting, and actually when I started video editing, those two skills actually came in really handy for me for just pacing and, like, composition. Just like I had developed somewhat of a language already, and then learning how to shoot and things like that. And so now today, like, I just think of myself as like a creative generalist, and that's what I love about it, is just being versatile and not being pigeonholed into one thing every day.
I can't believe you brought up the thing about me crying. That's like,
I remember.
How do you even remember that?
I remember that, man. I don't think I've ever cried on stage.
Yeah, I probably did, like, once.
Yeah, I think you cried more times than you didn't cry.
So one of the questions Justin Thompson asked, he said, "What has kept you here?" And I said, my question rewording that as how the heck have you stayed here this long?
What has kept me here? I think, I like the people. I like Ryan. I like you.
Thank you.
I like, the guys that we have a good camaraderie and just a good, it's just a good culture here of just flexibility and fun. And, our families are close, and my kids and Grant's kids will hang out and have sleepovers when we go out of town and stuff like that. So our wives are close. So it's just it's kind of a familial thing. We've just grown to really, really love each other, and I like the work. I feel like we're doing work that really resonates, with me, even though it's not all of it isn't exciting, and a lot of projects come with their own frustrations, but the work is good. I just really like the client interaction and just stepping into a project and figuring it out, and then moving on to another project and figuring it out. So that's just kind of how I'm wired, and I think that's and the fact that I get to be versatile. If I want to write I've never done this, but I suppose if I wanted to write a custom song for a soundtrack or something like that, I could, and you wouldn't tell me no. You probably wouldn't even know. Yeah, so I could just so I have a lot of creative freedom, and I enjoy it.
Sounds like a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
Really, just it is cool because for me, as the founder, I have been able to do, a ton of different aspects of the job. At the beginning, I obviously did everything, but then, 15 years later for me to see things that I love doing and then other things that I don't. And then my job really has been to figure out how I can stop doing the things that I don't like. And through the years, things that I used to love doing, I'm like, oh man, I'm glad that I don't do that thing anymore. And I've seen that in you as well, to be able to, really sort of be entrepreneurial with this business in the way that you, on a day-to-day get to do your job or jobs.
Yeah. I realized when I was at this nonprofit that I got really into business, because I got really into social media was coming out. Twitter was pretty new and all that stuff, and it was the new hotness to be a social media manager or something like that, and that's what I was going after. And I got really into how that works and how do you move people into action and grow a company, grow a brand. And so I got really into that, and I think that has just kind of stuck with me. I just enjoy seeing opportunities and then going, oh hey, have you guys thought about this? And here's how much that will cost, and stuff like that.
So I would say, I feel like a lot of people can look at the business that and really Tell Studio is the thing that we've created, right, with the help of Grant and all the other people that have played a part. But it hasn't always been roses, rainbows, glitter, sunshine. Well, not for me at least. You're I don't know what you're talking about. So and you can even remember early on, and a big part of this is just due to me learning and growing as a business owner and as a boss, and figuring out how do we create a culture that is healthy and that thrives, that really allows us to do the thing that we really want to do, versus the office drama, those things that just get in the way of the work. So what have you seen? What has worked for us throughout those years to where I would say today this is probably, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I would say today this is probably the healthiest culture that we've had, and it's sort of been on this trend for the last 2 or 3 years.
Totally. When I first started, I didn't really know what I didn't know. Eventually, once getting into shooting and starting to manage some of the edits, and then being the person to start to hire contractors and seeing how actually difficult that was to get quality work from people that don't work full time for you, and you hire contractors, and that brings in all sorts of moving parts, and the scope of our work has grown to such where there's like so many possibilities to drop the ball, you know. And at one point, I remember just like I was on this like solitude retreat in Joshua Tree in the desert, and I just was like, I mean, nothing else to do but sit on a mountain and with a Bible and a journal. So eventually I just started thinking about work, and like my whole thing was just like figuring out ways, how do we clean up all that, you know, all the sloppiness, because at a certain point it got to be really really bad. And then eventually we hired a operations manager and project manager, and like, so when we started hiring some traditional roles, I think that's when we started firing on all cylinders, because what was happening was like, you're creative, you don't want to deal really with the details, and you were trying to let the business run by yourself,
by itself,
or by itself, yeah. And I'm creative, I'm not like the most detailed, like if you ask me to manage like 10 deadlines at the same time and they're overlapping, like my brain explodes. So you know, so there's a lot of that. I just think we didn't have the organizational leadership that we needed, and so we have a bunch of creatives running around just being sloppy creatives and not being very type A at all.
And you had like a lot of people that are trying. Everybody is helpful, right? Everybody wants to help, but you know, stepping back, it's like, oh my gosh, like there's, you know, that person should never work on this aspect of a project, right? It was discovering that. I remember reading Traction and like really my eyes being open to this idea of like, well, there's a visionary for a company, and then there's the person, the integrator, the one that makes the stuff happen.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, like I've been doing both of these roles, and we've hired some support, some people who have, you know, like we hired a producer that took on a lot of those detail. But when I finally came to the realization that we needed somebody that was their main focus, that they weren't going to also produce jobs and also, you know, do other things, but their main focus was to get our projects in order, get the team in order, get all the details in line. For me, that's when I started like being able to take some deep breaths and just be like, wow, like this was the thing that I was missing. And I get the question so many times for people like, hey, you know, I want to hire somebody, like who should I hire? When should I hire them? And my thinking now, and I'd be curious to know your thoughts. Well, if you were to start a video company today, like what would be the...
And I am.
What would be, knowing that people that have a video company, they are creative to some extent, they're entrepreneurial, right? Because they're stepping out into like, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to find clients. What is in your mind, what would be the very first hire that they should make?
I hate when people answer with it depends. But
so don't.
But it
you can pick. I'm going to give you $100,000. You can buy some gear, buy a studio, but then you also have to hire somebody.
Okay, so if it's my studio, it's my studio, so I know how I operate. I know the things that I like to do. So I put like over the years, I think you've kind of forced me to think about what are the things that I love doing, what are the things I hate doing, and so I can separate those two and know which things I should not be dealing with. I should not be managing projects because I forget stuff all the time, you know. And I don't manage deadlines and all that stuff because it's just but what I really love is working higher level with the clients. I like the business aspect. I like having creative oversight, but my best position, I think, is one of my best is when a team of people who are also good at what they're doing are doing the work too. So if I was going to start a production company, I would probably hire someone to keep me organized.
Yeah. That's it's that role and an editor, right? Because the backlog where you get caught up, like if you're the only one doing the stuff, you shoot something, you spend a day shooting something, and then you've got 10, 20, 30, 40 hours or however long it takes to sift through, create it, send out revisions, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And that was like one of my first hires was like, even, you know, when I was hiring Sean and John to contract edits out, because I couldn't sell anymore. I didn't have the time to sell. I didn't have time to do any business development strategy. I just lost all of that time. But if I could have hired 2 people at the same time, I would have hired a project manager / producer and an editor.
Yeah.
If I could only pick one,
I would pick an editor. Honestly, like for me, I would.
Changing your answer.
I mean, because now that you mentioned editing, that takes so much time.
Yeah.
And you're in it like dealing with the revisions and the back and forth and stuff like that. That is a whole beast. You need someone on that full time. You can't be a business owner and a shooter and also an editor unless you want to be up like, pulling all-nighters and never seeing your family very much and
Been there, done that.
and stuff like that, because there's so many fires. Like all the fires happen in the post-production.
Yeah.
So like I would want someone to be pushing the buttons, so I'm not having to do the creative work and put out the fires and do all this other stuff. So I would probably hire an editor first and then some sort of producer, organizational person.
The great thing about the internet today is you really could, if you could get an editor and like a person that works with you, that would be ideal. But then like with a project manager or a producer, like that role, that really could be something that is like a 5 or 10 hour a week just to start. To start passing off some of the details, to have somebody run Basecamp or whatever project management software, or to start a project management software for you, and they take care of those details. And to think, you probably, depending on where you're at in your business, you probably need somebody that's editing on a more full-time basis, and then, a project person on a 5 to 10 hour a week thing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think most people in this audience like to shoot. That's probably what they want to do. So I think it really comes down to figuring out what it is that you were designed to do, and how can you stop doing the things that you weren't designed to do. It's not always possible, but there's a lot of things that I do in my day-to-day work that it's got to get done. So we do it. But I think Ryan's always working on me about delegating and trusting others, because I'm very I'm the only one that can do it right. That's sort of like my mindset, or it's like this will take me more time to explain it than to.
That's what you're not the other way where you think it's going to be better. You just the value of time, and if we can get this thing delivered, you're like, well, it's just going to take more time. And that's the big struggle that so many people have when hiring an editor. We just talked about this recently, where it's like you could teach somebody how to do it, and you're going to have to keep teaching them, and eventually at some point they'll figure it out and they'll be able to do it on their own. But in the meantime, it's it's just get out of the way. Let me just do this thing and get this thing off.
Yeah. I think. So. I think that's totally it. It's really hard. It's really hard to delegate, and especially when you have a small team where you don't really have much of you don't have many options of people to delegate to. So one of our struggles is our workhorses of the company, Grant and Andrew. They're amazing. Both of them are just huge assets to the company, and they're booked all the time, on edits. So then I end up having to do some stuff, but yeah, I mean that's the nature of it. Just trying to figure out what you like to do and where you should be spending most of your time, and not forgetting about growing the business. I think it's not really my role to grow the business, but I am involved in some sales stuff, and I have to remind myself don't schedule over the sales time, because I have time blocked out to do sales prospecting and stuff like that, and oftentimes that's the first thing to go when things get busy. But keeping in mind no, I run a business, and it has to grow. In order for me to be able to get to a place where I can delegate stuff, the business has to be going in a forward direction. And if I'm not spending if you're not spending time on the business and you're just constantly always doing the work in the business, then that's a problem. Yeah. So getting good contractors behind you is a huge asset for people that don't want to hire full time. It takes some work and a lot of vetting, but yeah, just having a solid editor, a solid shooter that you can always just call to bring on is good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, what is it? Short-term sacrifice, long-term gain. I think that's a Mary Kay saying back when I used to sell beauty
Mary
products.
Kay.
Hey, I'll be right back with my interview with John Azoni right after this. I've been running my own video production company called Tell Studios and have for the last 15 years. I'm like ancient in this world. I went from charging clients a couple $100, actually probably less than that, for a video, to being able to consistently book 5- and 6-figure video jobs and working all alone in the bedroom of our first house, to having multiple employees in almost a 6,000 square foot studio space. And I'm here to tell you that you can also win in this business. Maybe your goal isn't to hire employees or to have your own studio, but maybe you want to not have to work so hard at getting people to hire you, or figure out on your own how you can charge more money, or how you can work on projects that inspire you. You can do this, but you need a plan, you need a process, you need some steps on how to do this, repeatable steps, and you need a community where there's some accountability. And that's what Studio Sherpas is all about. We are a community of guides helping our clients understand how we can help them, and figuring out sooner rather than later if we're going to be a good fit to work together. All while charging more than we ever thought that we could, because we finally started believing in our value, and we finally started charging what we're worth. If you're interested in becoming a part of this community, you can find out more about the Video Business Academy at studiosherpas.com/academy. And if you're serious about growing in a real, an honest, and actionable way, without being sleazy, but being totally authentic to who you are as a person, or using trickery or sorcery or anything like that, you really should consider the Video Business Academy. Again, the URL is studiosherpas.com/academy. And now back to our show.
What has been one of the biggest eye-openers for you over the last 9 years?
Oh.
And I think when I say, like, what has been something that maybe has been an amazing return on investment? Something that we spent money on, or we spent time doing. Like, what, if, as you think through the different stages that our business has been in, what would you say, like, man, I would say one of them is when I read Traction and we started applying the EOS model. Like, that was a big shift change for us. Mm-hmm. Can you think of any others for you personally, or just for the business as a whole?
One, I don't know if it's like the biggest eye opener, but one, for me, was learning, going back a little bit to the delegating thing. I would sometimes get frustrated when I would hand something off and it would come back not how I would have done it, or just I had to do a lot more babysitting and things like that. And I think at some point, like, you and I had this conversation about, like, there are certain people that are grinders, and then there are certain people that are leaders. And sometimes I was expecting the grinders, which would be like the workhorses in the company, to step up and lead and, like, kind of help spread the workload a little thinner amongst everyone. But not everyone, like, has that, and some people are just meant to execute. And I think that was an eye opener for me, was learning to let certain people just be how they were designed to be, and don't expect something else, out of them. That was one eye opener. I don't know if that was the biggest one.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
We've landed some pretty big clients, pretty big jobs, multiple 6-figure jobs. Mm-hmm. What do you think, like, what does it take to be able to land those and to successfully deliver those and make clients happy?
I think it's kind of a slow build. we have done a lot of legwork in sales to kind of work our way up to bigger clients, but we've also gotten like kind of lucky, sometimes like with one of our clients, just kind of happened to meet her. She happened to just be this great client.
Yeah, super random. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Totally. Right place, right time.
Right place, right time. Totally. So there's a lot of that, but I think having a certain level of maturity as a brand, like we've been around a long time, we have a studio now, we have processes in place. I think what a lot of our clients really respond to is our processes, because we from the get-go we're organized and we take them through a certain process. We're not just like some creative like kids coming in there and being like, yeah, well, we'll get you a video,
Get you some drone shots. It'll be sweet.
yeah. So
That's how the kids talk these
yes.
days.
And then, I mean, the six-figure jobs that we've gotten have just been like a lot of billable hours that go into them. So I think they get up into the six figures because it's like to make all this stuff happen within the constraints, like we need more people or we need more time and things like that. So, so I think just as our work has grown and like the level of quality that we expect, sometimes the more hands we need on deck and the scope grows into six figures. But I think it's really finding the right client, which is not easy. There's no like, I couldn't tell you how to find them.
Yeah, I think what you're saying though, it's like it's all of these parts, right? It's not just like you just start doing the work and your work is good, and then somebody sees it and says like, yeah, like I've got upwards of $50,000 or $100,000 that I want to trust you with. Mm-hmm. That doesn't happen. Few and far instances, maybe it does happen. But for us, I remember when we started out doing weddings. We did weddings for forever, and we did 30 to 40 per season. And then we eventually started doing corporate video. We launched a different brand, different website, really wanted to differentiate the two brands. And our first project, do you remember? Was U of M.
U of M, okay.
It was
I don't know if you could like not say the name or something.
Yeah, it's a $25,000 opportunity. Before then, like our biggest wedding, I think that we had booked was like $11,000 or $12,000, which was a big wedding.
Yeah, it was pretty big.
But most of the weddings we were doing were $6,000 or $7,000. So to book a job that was 3.5 times the size, less shooting days, right? Mm-hmm. I think we maybe had at most maybe 2 production days. We farmed some of it out. But that's when our eyes opened to like, oh my gosh, like there's a lot more to this than I ever knew. I knew it would be a good business move, but since then, over the years, we have been able to refine like different parts of the business. Where today it's like to be able to communicate your process, to be able to communicate, how you help businesses, to be able to walk them through kind of like, A to Z. Here's how we're going to help you, and here's how we're going to help you succeed.
Yeah.
And then also having that conversation so many times, my confidence from the first time that when we were there meeting with this team at this big conference table, all three of us were just like, oh my gosh,
yeah.
Like I can't believe we're here. Like this is crazy. Now today, if I get invited to something like that,
you're showing up in shorts and a Hawaiian shirt.
I'm smoking a cigarette. I'm like, guys, sun's gone. But it's that's the other element that with confidence, people can just feel confidence. And the only way that you can get that kind of confidence is by taking a lot of swings, missing. Oh my gosh, I have some embarrassing stories where, just this this confidence that really, it was overconfidence. I probably was scared at this. I'm thinking of this one in particular. You weren't there. So that is like one other element in like, you just gotta like really know who you are, how you help people. Here's our process, and the more times you can do that, this confidence just builds, and people can feel that, they can sense that, and when they're looking at 2 or 3 other companies, if you're a business and you need some kind of return on your investment, you're gonna want to go with whoever is gonna make you feel like, not who's got the prettiest pictures, not who's got like the best reel, Like that is like one element on a scale, of like maybe 10 different things that they're hoping for. As soon as you start talking about process, as soon as they feel like you can own this project, as soon as they know that you're on their side, that you want to help them succeed, those are the things, the buzzwords that we had to learn, because we went from sitting down with a bride and groom and all we had to do was show them like gorgeous footage, gorgeous brides and grooms. They could see themselves in there and they're like, yes, that's what we want. And how come you guys are so expensive? It's like, well, we've been doing this for a long time and we want to put a lot into this. So, that was one thing, but then to go, next level where you're working with a business where they're not just creating a piece, a legacy piece, they're creating a piece that it needs to bring money, employees save time, like all those things. So they need to know, and they're smarter to know, smarter than just like seeing some like, wow, this footage is awesome. All right, let's do this project.
Yeah, I think, and I think what that comes down to is like the problem that you solve for your client. And I think a lot of times, the obvious thing would be like, client wants to make money, but I think deep down they want to take the pressure off of the creative pressure off of themselves.
Right.
And I think that's what I've kind of started to learn is like what is our value add is we come in and we're like, we got this. Don't worry about it. Just sit back. We'll take input from you for sure, but like, we got this. We're going to catch the vision, and we're going to give you our absolute best. And I think there's just like a sigh of relief when they find a good partner, and that's I think what organizations are looking for is a partner. And I think that even if you're a freelancer or you have a small studio, what you should be after is partnerships, because just chasing one-off like little $10,000 jobs here and that, and then you just go on to the next thing, and and you never really talk to that person ever again. That's a way to keep you sort of in that you're always going to kind of have that budget level, but as soon as you become a partner, now you're along for the ride in the marketing vision and the overall vision of the company and things like that, and you have some say-so, or you have like some say in hey, you guys should do this, or like, have we thought about this, or so we've had a lot of that, and I think one of our best clients and probably our most profitable clients started with it was like a $12,000 job. They just called us up randomly. They something happened with their other video team, and they needed a team to show up and shoot this like case study video. So we rallied and did it, and then it ended up being really great. But what they loved was the process and the fact that we came in, we scouted, we asked deeper questions than like, what shots do you want? We were really like, hey, what's like the core of this message? What's the soul? What's the soul of this message? And really tried to get be an extension of their marketing team, really. And then provide them a good experience. We had monitors for them that they weren't used to having, like a video village, and we lit it in a way that they weren't used to, and then afterwards we made transcripts from the interviews, and then I went in and like highlighted, here's what I thought was important. What do you guys think? And they just loved that, because it's just like, oh, this transcript came to us, and it's not like this big headache of like this long thing. Like, they've already digested it, and we can just kind of trust them. And oh, here's one sentence that we like that you missed. But like, I think it's just like being being a long-term valuable partner to them. And then that led to a six-figure job. We did some smaller stuff, and then all the way up, we just did a pretty major long-form branded content. I wouldn't call it it was a documentary. It was like 20 minutes, whatever you call that, but
short.
That was a big project, and they love us just because they trust us so much. Mm-hmm. Just because we're not coming in just trying to get cool shots and stuff. We really want their business to grow, and we care about it, and
Yeah, that's awesome. The last thing I want to talk about I'm like, yeah, what are some of like the big things? What about strategy? Like, what about like the workshop and kind of sitting down with our clients? What is that, and how has that changed our business?
The storyline workshops?
Yeah.
Oh, because you said strategy. We also have
Well, yeah,
a strategy
so-
workshop.
Sorry.
How has that changed our business? So that's been, going back to your question about what's been an eye-opener, that's probably been a huge one for me, of how much clients value creative partnership and how much they need that. Like, even you could have these seasoned marketing people that have been in the industry for decades, and they still, like, they want to trust someone else,
Right.
With their baby of a project. And they want to lean on, and most clients will say, like, yeah, we kind of know what we want, but like, you guys are the experts too, so we want you to speak into that. So all we did was like create an experience for them where we can come in and meet in the middle and kind of, be the experts, rather than just like figuring out on the fly, and then you got like 10,000 revisions because you like headed off in this direction. And so I think that the workshops have been eye-opening for me, and just like how much clients value that. And I think that's been strategic for our business, because not only is it like very quality FaceTime with like all of the stakeholders, because usually if you're just chasing one-off jobs, you might get like the one marketing director, but like you have a workshop, now you got their CEO, their all this, everyone, the whole marketing team, and you're able to treat them to lunch and make them laugh and stuff like that, and then just working through their ideas, really just helping them, really just helping them have a discussion, creating an environment where they can have a valuable discussion that moves their business forward. And I think for us, that's strategically allowed us to continue to grow, and like to continue to grow, like deepen our impact with those clients, because it's such a trust building experience. So then they just keep coming back to us because they trust us,
Yeah, I didn't set that up good enough, but like what has happened in the sales process, people call us and they want a video. They're like, yeah, we're shopping around, so we just want to get some prices. And I have transitioned those calls to, if they're, I can tell through the questions that I ask, are they just shopping for prices, or are they kind of like ready to go? If they're closer to being ready to go and they kind of have a rough budget in mind, then I'll ask them, do you need, are you just going to direct this project and just tell us where to point the cameras and kind of run? That's great, because we can do that. Or do you need some help? Do you need partnership? Have you done videos in the past and they just haven't gone great and you're just not really sure, or you need the experts, which they always say, everybody always says that. But until they're ready to put their money where their mouth is and say, like, okay, if you really believe that we're experts, because our problem was we kept trying to add value to our clients and give them these ideas and things, but those were the wrong clients, because they already had a vision in mind. They weren't hiring us to come up with the ideas. But then when we started catching them on the phone and figuring out, do they need some ideas or do they not? Yeah. And as soon as we realize that they do, then my thing is like, okay, before we hit record on the camera, let's do this workshop. Let's get the important people in the room that need to get in alignment, because then you think about delivering drafts to the team. And this has happened so many times where we're working with one person, they see the first draft, they're like, this is good, here's the revisions. We get them the final. They're like, this is great. Then a couple days later, they show it to their CEO finally, and their CEO is like, what is this? Like, this isn't. And then that person's back, and they're kind of making it our problem. We're like, we did exactly what you told us to do. Mm-hmm. They didn't do a good job of getting clarity. And so now, doing this workshop, we can help our clients succeed. We succeed. Our team is way more happy because we have a blueprint that we're working off of. So on production, we have it. On if there's any scripting involved, we've got that. And then post-production. So it helps our clients, it helps us, and we're charging for it. So we're making money. We're being valued for the thing that we want to offer if the client deems it something that they need.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been and clients are really biting at that, which is interesting to me, because I think people be afraid to charge, to like even pitch someone here, spend $2,500 before you even know if you want to work with me. You would be quick to think that that's not going to work, but it actually has worked very well in how you frame it, because it's really just an environment to come in and go, let me just download from you and like everything possible. Let me just really understand this project, but also let me like understand all the surrounding elements in your business that are affected by this project or that this project affects, and that's kind of what they want. You know, they want someone to kind of come take the load off of a little bit. But strategically, it's been a great stepping stone, because people think that they have to work out their idea at some point.
Right.
You know, so they'll pay for the experts to do it, and I think what they're really looking for is an outside perspective, because they're just too close to the work. So that's kind of, I think, what they're paying for. And I don't know where I'm going with this.
Well, if they can afford that 2 hours, because it's like everybody's busy, it's hard to. So to ever get the CEO, we're always just like, well, or whoever the key stakeholder, it's like, man, it's hard to get that. But if we can just tell them, hey, this 2 hours, that's all we need you for. Get you in this room for 2 hours, and then we're going to present this thing to you. You're going to look at it and maybe make some edits and say like, yep, this is all the stuff. Maybe, you know, we don't like that line, change that. But that's like outside of the workshop, they're hardly doing anything. So, you know, the testimonials that we're getting, the way that people are talking about this workshop, it's building on itself, and it's building stronger relationships with our clients. It's making better work in the long run. So anyway, that really has been something that, you know, if you're feeling like, you know, my clients don't value me, one question I would just say is like, well, what are you promising to them, or what are they expecting from you? Because that was something that we kind of had to realize as we were adding all this value, and of course they weren't valuing that because they weren't paying for it, so they didn't have to take your ideas or our ideas. So anyway, I
think there's just a lot of assumptions too that come when you don't really sit down in that type of environment. Like I remember how the U of M thing went. That first project that we did, that I remember, well, I probably shouldn't say. Anyway, just basically they came to us saying they wanted one thing. We were really trying to lead toward that thing because it was very story focused, and then it became clear that what they needed was something else, something more just like, here's who we are, here's why you should come to the school, and things like that. But that didn't become clear until we were shooting, and their marketing person was like interrupting the interview the whole time to ask different types of questions.
Yeah.
And that was a really frustrating experience for me. And that was probably my biggest example of like all of that. And we delivered a V1.
Oh my gosh.
And it was great. It was like, we thought it was great, and we put so much time into it, and they completely upended it.
Yeah.
So it's all of that could have been taken care of, and like the whole process would have been smoother, not assuming what they meant by, you know.
Well, we were trying to deliver above and beyond. We were like, oh yeah, this is gonna be a great story, and you know, like to your point, we didn't realize what they were wanting was something different, and that could have been avoided had we, you know, gone through a workshop with them, and not their fault at all. Like we were trying to be helpful. We thought that we got it, and then you go and you do it, and it's like if there's no in between the like, hey, here's our chat about this, and then hey, you're shooting today and you're doing interviews. Like what's that in between? Before that in between just used to be us talking about like, well, what questions should we ask and like what shots should we get? Now we have more of an in between that we show them to say like, is this it?
Yeah.
And them to say, yep, that's it. And I mean, I feel like we it's just given us so many more opportunities to not miss it.
Yeah,
right?
Totally. It's made things go a lot smoother for our team. And I think that's a lot of what where some of that like sort of sloppiness I talked about earlier was coming in, was just like so many assumptions being made on every project, and a lot of that is eliminated by getting everyone in the same room and just having the conversation. Everyone was there. Everyone heard what the whole team committed to, and we have this blueprint that they said, yes, that's it. So that's going to solve just a whole lot of organizational problems.
So lastly, last question I have for you. What are you excited about? What are you excited about for the future for us here, and what do you envision, Mr. Creative Director?
Yeah. What I'm most excited about, I'm really excited about the work that we're putting out, lately. It's really, I think we've since Tell started and we shifted from weddings into corporate stuff. I think we've really started to develop a voice with our creative work, and that is really powerful. And I think we're starting to do work that is like really interesting. And the fact that like these two, my two favorite projects have been the two long form, Desert Flight, and then this beef brand that we did the piece on. Just like the fact that some stranger can sit down and watch that and have an emotional experience with beef, or like I showed it to my wife, or I showed the Desert Flight, the horse one, to my wife.
Two completely different projects.
Yeah, two different projects.
One that's eating meat, the other one that's like enjoying the sport of horse jumping.
Yeah.
But like, for clarification.
Over on the horse side of things, my wife has no idea about horses, and when I showed her the documentary for the first time, she was really moved, and she was like, I can't believe how interested I was in horses, and this sport, like, that I knew nothing about, so that's really cool. And that's all like grabbing people's emotions and having that much, time in a long form piece to really explore the story. And I think that's what we don't get to do. And a lot of times making these like hype videos, it's like, it has to be like 2 or 3 minutes. It's got to be as short as possible. You have to leave so much compelling stuff on the table in order to make it snappy. So I think that's what I'm most excited about, and I'm hoping for more opportunities to like really go deep with people's brands and like draw out something that they didn't know was there, and hopefully that continues to lead to more and more work like that, because I think we kind of get stuck in like, this is the work that clients always kind of hire us to do, and then because that's all we have to show, that's all we keep getting.
It's
eventually,
a cycle.
Yeah. Eventually, we started getting some like really story focused clients, and I think that has allowed us to kind of go in the direction that our hearts want to go in.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for honoring us with your time.
Thanks for paying me for this hour.
Oh yeah. You can find me on Twitter. I'm at twitter.com/RyanCoral@gmail.com.
Yeah, Ryan has the Studio Sherpas podcast. I don't know if any of you have found this goose egg, but he goes, you can follow me on Twitter at RyanCoral.com. So.
Nobody thinks that's funny.
Yeah, it's funny.
It's good. Yeah. So anyway, I appreciate you a ton. You know that. I hope you know that. I love that we've been able to do this work together for 9 years, and I think this was really helpful. I'm excited to hear how people respond to this episode and see what kind of questions come up. And but anyway, appreciate you. Thanks for being here. And till next time.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Too bad we don't have two ferns.
Two ferns, yeah.
One on
between
each side.
two mugs.
Between two mugs.
All right, that's my interview with John. If you want notes from the show, links, anything that we talk about, make sure that you go to studiosherpas.com/154 and you'll be directed to all of those things there. And if you feel like you're losing jobs to your competition, if you need a competitive advantage, I want you to check out the video blueprint method that John and I chatted about in this episode. And you can do that if you go to the URL. It's videoblueprintmethod.com. This has been the biggest game changer for our business, which has allowed us to get paid for pre-production, create better projects for our clients, and get our clients aligned before we begin shooting and editing. And it has made our team happier because we have all the information that we need prior to the start of a project, and it's improved the look and feel of our work 100 times. And no one else is offering this workshop and this blueprint. So when it comes time for a client to decide if they want to work with us or the other guy down the street, The workshop is the thing that sets us apart and makes the decision so much easier. Plus, it's an opportunity for them to work with us at a fraction of the cost of the full video with no strings attached. They can just do the workshop. If they don't like the workshop or the direction, or they don't like us, we offer them their money back. When you invest in this training, we'll show you how we introduce the workshop to our clients, how we sell it to them on the phone or in person for $2,500 a piece. That's what these workshops cost. You'll get to see us do a 2-hour workshop with an actual client on an actual project, and I'll even show you what the blueprint looked like for the specific client and what the final video looked like. And then we also include some other free downloads to help you get up and going right away. And if you go to videoblueprintmethod.com, you'll see some of the stories from some of the Studio Sherpas community of people who have purchased the Video Blueprint Method and how they've recouped their investment and are now offering this same thing to their clients. So go check it out. Sales pitch over, almost over, videoblueprintmethod.com. And let me know if you have any questions. Next week's show, I had the pleasure of interviewing Dan Cockrell. He's a guy who worked at Disney for a really long time and is an incredible business leader who brings some really, really solid advice on how we can deliver an over-the-top experience for our clients, even as little old video companies. Check out this clip from next week's show.
The expectation just goes up. You're spending your hard-earned money, and you just want, and a lot of times, once again, it doesn't have to be over the top. Just give me a certain level of attention. And I start to notice that now, these little differences. We were at the mall this morning. There was some, apparently Black Friday started like last week.
Yes,
so,
totally.
So we went to the mall with my wife and daughter, and they stopped by Starbucks. And this guy at the register, he took the orders and he asked if there's anything else. And I said, I want to use my rewards on my card. Can I get you anything else? Would you like some food? And this kid, I still remember him from today. He was the one that made this impact on me. And he didn't do anything, like he didn't give us anything free. There was nothing. He didn't give us a sample. There was just something about the spark he had, this energy he had. He just seemed like he was enjoying his day and he was enjoying working there. And it just made me feel better about it. Because to your point, when you're interacting with people who don't enjoy their job, it kind of takes you down too. You're like, man, I feel worse than you do now. Man, you should get out of here. So it is. A lot of this is attitude.
All right, my friend, as always, let me know how I can help you grow in your video business. Where are you stuck? Are you just starting out? What do you think that you need to take things to the next level? Email me, hey@studiosherpas.com, or find me on the socials at Ryan Coral or at Studio Sherpas. Till next time, keep on climbing, my friend, but let's climb together. Love ya. Love your guts. Peace out.